Hey y'all. I'm so excited for this edition for many reasons, but hey.
Sure.
Carter. Why do I
What's
get so
going,
excited when I see you? It feels like a reunion or something.
what's going on? You look beautiful.
Thank you. So do you. How are you?
Thanks, I'm
Happy
cool.
Sunday.
Huh?
Happy Sunday.
Yeah, happy Sunday. Yeah, I'm doing all right. I got the most bootleg setup ever over here. So, yeah.
But you glowing and you look all dewy and everything.
Yeah, you want to know why?
Wow.
My, cooling unit broke. Natural effect.
Well, luckily it's not that hot on the East Coast right now. It's kind of still in the
Yeah,
70s.
I was actually scared to check the weather. I don't know what's going on. I didn't even look, but it's hot for sure.
It is hot. I'm sorry. I'm sorry that's the case. I'm excited about this conversation. So, all Black Lives Matter,
Absolutely.
and that includes Black queer, Black trans, gay, LGBTQIA plus.
Okay, sure, with the whole joint. Okay.
You know, I'm from that DNI background, so
Uh-huh.
make sure we get it all in there. And then also, you know, I want to make sure that you correct me if I misspeak, if I misstate something. Um, just correct me. You know what I'm saying? Like, I think it's so important to know that this is an ongoing learning experience. You know what I'm saying?
For sure.
So I really wanted to start with this Audre Lorde quote to kind of set the tone for the conversation. Wait.
What?
They don't know who you are. Let's start. Go back. Let's go back. All right. So I'm Charlyn Anderson. I'm the founder and executive director for Starting With Today. Starting With Today is a nonprofit. We're based in the Washington, D.C. area. And we promote mental wellness, financial wellness, and career wellness as well, career development. And we do that for um, Black people in low income, moderate income neighborhoods. That's east of the Anacostia River in DC and Prince George's County within the Beltway are our focus areas. And we have with us Carter, who I met at Howard University long time ago, who is in the nonprofit space. She's a lawyer. She's a rapper. She does a lot of other stuff. Do you want to tell people about who you are and what you do?
I'm not a practicing attorney. I did graduate from law school in 2010. Yeah, I'm currently director of a nonprofit here in Harrisburg, Pennsylvania called Glow. We're a community resource center for MSM and trans women of color. And MSM is men that have sex with men because like some men are having sex with men but don't consider themselves gay or bisexual. So it's for everyone that is a man that is having sex with other men and trans women of color. And that's like now, we're super new. Like we opened our doors in November.
Oh,
Uh,
wow.
you know what I mean? And then in March, everything shifted to a virtual space. And we're just now talking about what reopening looks like. So we're super new, but we're doing really important work. And there's an incredible team of people really dedicated to seeing a safe space created and maintained. And I'm also the director of youth programs at the LGBT Center in Central Pennsylvania. So I'm doing a lot.
Which is so important work though. Like it was like I don't feel like they're just your lens. I think what you bring to the space is unique. I think having that JD though, like it brings another lens to it too, right? And so how you navigate those spaces I think is important. So I do want to get to this Audre Lorde quote. It says Black and third world people are expected to educate white people as to our humanity. Women are expected to educate men. Lesbians and gay men are expected to educate the heterosexual world. Our oppressors maintain their position and evade their responsibility for their own actions. Therefore, it is a constant drain of energy, which might be better used in redefining ourselves and devising realistic scenarios for altering the present and constructing the future. And I kind of just want that to set the tone for like the conversation, like this really altering the present and constructing the future. And I just don't, I feel as a Black woman, there's been a lot of burden trying to educate white people. And I can imagine that's triple fold as a black gay woman and what other boxes you check. And so I don't want that to be the weight. Like we need to do our own work, but to provide a guide and to like a platform for those conversations to be had.
I agree with you, and I appreciate that lens too, because I don't think a lot of people get that. I think like all Black people right now that work in a space with white people are getting those text messages and those emails and those phone calls like, hey, what can I do? People, there's some white people out there that genuinely care. They want to be on the right side of history. They want to know how they can be anti-racist, and they're reaching out to the only Black people that they know, and it's not our work, and we're already stressed out and pissed off and doing too much. So yeah, that quote is I agree with that quote 100%, and it leaves out the fact that trans people are expected to educate cisgender people.
So true. So true.
Right. But don't worry, because I got a list of resources, a short list of resources that I'll share at the end, so that people that are interested in doing better at recognizing the humanity in other people can do that research without hitting any of us up.
And I think you kind of bring up a point though, right? And I feel like there is some genuine concern from, white people or non-Black people who are trying to figure out this race thing in 2020, right? That's where we are, right? Yeah. But I don't necessarily feel there is enough activation for cis heterosexual Black people to learn what the trans world is feeling, what they're going through, or do that education, or get uncomfortable, to kind of learn. And I don't feel like there's enough. I feel like that's two different worlds, right? Like there's the Black gay world and there's a Black straight world, and they don't collide enough.
Yeah, I mean, yeah, we can say that like in a general sense, right? Like we're intersectional beings, right. So there's plenty of times where we are in those same spaces, but I don't. The only way that I can think to like rectify that is to just teach each other, remind each other, teach our kids, teach young people that we're working with, correct older people, correct people in our own age range. When we start to disrespect or throw someone under the bus or other someone because they don't identify the way you do. I really think that is the bulk of the work. You know what I mean?
Right.
I'm assuming that progressive white people at some point were like, stop calling Black people niggers. We don't do that anymore. You know what I mean? Like, we're kind of doing a lot better at getting rid of the F word out of our vocabulary when referring to gay men.
Right.
And I just think that that's the work that we as cisgender people need to be doing in those spaces. I'm thinking about like a barbershop. Like I saw that a lot of your work takes place in barbershops, which is like the go-to place for a lot of straight Black men, cis Black men.
Right.
In spaces like that, if I walk into a barbershop and I hear, and I might be more accepted in a barbershop as a Black lesbian woman than I would if I were a trans woman. You know what I mean?
Yeah.
So I might hear snickering if a trans woman walks in, or it just gets dumb quiet and uncomfortable, or somebody's going to say something weird, or somebody starts quoting scripture. Like, you know what I mean? Like, stuff like that. Like, it's up to us as cisgender people to speak up and be like, that's not cool. You know what I mean? I really think that that's where the work is. I think that if you are cis, you need to be speaking up when people throw trans people under the bus. If you are straight, you need to be speaking up when people throw gay people under the bus. And it goes down the line.
I absolutely 100% agree. And sometimes I laugh at your reflection, but not the actual message. I just want to make sure I'm not.
I know.
Like, you're hilarious. Like, that's you're hilarious. So people might not understand. Like, I'm, not laughing at them.
Oh yeah, hoping nobody takes it the wrong way.
Yeah. But I think that's so important. I think it kind of brings me back to this. One of the conversations I had recently really sparked this debate about Black trans lives matter, like this hashtag, right? And why it's important that we amplify this message as well. Like, it's a
Right.
say her name, Black Lives Matter, and Black trans lives matter. And their murders are need to be advocated. Like, we need to stop. We need to create safe spaces, and what that begins to look like for us. I would love to hear your feedback. But then I think you're right. Like, these individual conversations need to happen. But I feel like there's something that in mass that needs to happen within the Black church, within the Black community, definitely within the Black barbershop spaces. And, the Shape Up, the starting with today's Shape Up, we are intentional, inclusive in our language, but there's still some more amplification that needs to happen, right? And this barbershop that we go to, Lee's Barbershop, what up to Lee's, is it's both women and men in there, and also both gay and straight. So you get a good bunch of people that come through. But I think the culture is centered on Black cisgender men. And that's not necessarily always the healthiest place to have those conversations. We're the healthiest place to, like, be othered.
Right. But I would argue that there is no safe space. Like, when is a LGBTQ person, like, safe to be themselves, except amongst each other for the most part? I think that this conversation parallels white supremacy so closely. You know what I mean? It's like you can be oppressed in your workplace. I don't know, like in your housing situation and education. But there's never a right time to address it. Like, there's never, you know what I mean? It's always inappropriate to say something. You always have to check yourself. I hope it don't sound too crazy, too angry and complaining. You know what I mean? There's never a right time. Like, it never feels good. It's never appropriate. Like, you know what I mean? It's you just have to do it.
Yeah. And I think it has to be consistent too. Like, it has to be ongoing. We have to normalize these conversations, right? And I feel, this is part of the work that we want to do collectively, like as a community. So let's talk about, we talked about you give us some resources so we don't evade our responsibility, but also this blind eye and how we can make sure that, I think the way we're amplifying some of the women who have been killed by the police, we definitely need to make sure that our language is amplifying the Black trans people that are being slain as well, and sometimes not by police and sometimes by other Black people, which is horrific. So can you talk a little bit about what you feel like needs to happen for it to be a safe space? We talked about evading responsibility, but I want to talk a little bit about, like, the erasure of queer folks in the liberation movement. And Kimberly Crenshaw coined the term intersectionality. And we've had conversations about, I feel like I'm a Black woman. A woman comes right after Black, but, like, right there. I'm also, from, what people would consider low income, area, born and raised in what people would consider a hood, like, just all these things that we're working, systematically working against our communities. And so what do you feel that means to you, and what can we do to kind of make sure there's more room and more safety in bringing your full selves into Black spaces? I can't help the white people. I mean, I don't know, like, I can't speak for, like, what they can do, but, what can we do?
What can Black people do amongst other Black people to make queer Black people feel safe?
Correct.
So, like, churches, public spaces, home. I guess it's a lot of unlearning.
Yeah.
A lot of unlearning. Like, we're taught that how some of us identify as wrong and unnatural and sick, curse, and all of these things. Like there's a lot of self-hatred in LGBTQ plus communities because of that. And a lot of us are doing that work to come out of that. I think a lot of us have a good sense of self-worth, but so many don't.
Right.
Yeah, so it starts with unlearning. I talked to a friend, Simone is on here. She conversation not too long ago. She said getting away from religious doctrine. Yeah, getting away from religious doctrine that might not be affirming.
Yeah. Yes. Absolutely.
So yeah, I mean, there's so much that has to happen. I don't understand why just accepting another human's humanity can't be enough. You know
And
what I
why
mean?
we have to justify that and put like qualifications around that. I think some of the conversations I had before were just around this exceptionalism. Like we can talk about, how we love Prince, but we don't talk about his queerness. We love James Baldwin. We love to quote James Baldwin. Love it. But we're not going to talk about his queerness. And Ray Bustin, and like there's so many that are our leaders that have led the people at the expense of putting their sexuality or identity to the back burner. And you talk about the church too, and just how hypocritical it is. As a Black woman, unless you're a cisgendered Black man in the Black church, it's like, if you have a child out of it, like everybody can have sex except for Black women, straight men can have sex with anyone and it's fine. So much damaging theology there that needs to be dismantled, like from the core. Like we need to dismantle it. And I really feel like the humanity shouldn't need to be justified.
Can I interrupt you right there? I agree with you. There's this culture of silence, right? When you're oppressing someone. So it's like, and I'm going to talk about the Black church real quick. So like in our churches, you can be gay as hell. You can play the organ, direct the choir, sing in the choir.
Theater.
You can preach. As long as you're not mentioning who you truly are or honoring your true self in any of that. You know what I mean? And everybody's cool with it as long as you stay quiet. Parallel to white America, I'm thinking about our politics. I'm thinking about when Barack Obama became president. How not one time could he say, "I am a Black man." Read that like off, that like slight reference to how Trayvon could have been his son. But never once could he say, like, I'm a Black man, and as a Black man, Because once you say that, like, it scares white people. He's acknowledging that. This is going to empower the other Blacks. And they were cool as long as he played cool and kept them comfortable.
Right.
So, yeah. So, like, a lot of this is getting rid of silence, getting rid of that culture of silence.
So it's on both sides.
Yeah.
So, yeah. On both sides. Oh, but it's so, then do we put the burden, like, because I feel like as soon as you speak up, then there's consequences, right? And there's like some burden to it. And I don't know if we put the burden back on the people that are being oppressed. You know what I'm saying? And like, how do we remove that burden? I guess it's, yeah. I don't know.
But the other thing that you were asking about, like the erasure of queer people and liberation movements like Bayard Rustin, and even like the people that started Pride.
Right.
I didn't even know that Pride was started by a Black trans woman.
Yeah.
Or that it had anything to do with anyone Black until like 2 years ago. Like,
wow.
And I started to ask myself, like, why are we erased? And I remember learning about Bayard Rustin. I was like a grown ass person. It was like 25.
Yeah, same.
But I'm like asking myself, like, why are we erased from these like pivotal moments in history? And then the answer came to me like, oh, because we can be. Right. You know what I mean? Like we're less than. Right. We're taught that we're less than. And just like they say the winners of history write history. So you know what I mean? Like we're not winning. And so people frame those stories how they want to.
So that kind
Well,
of brings to a solution, right? To write more stories. I know there are a lot of Black trans narratives out there that we probably should be reading and maybe
mm-hmm.
sources. Um,
Absolutely.
because I think our stories are so powerful, both oral and written, and then having those conversations. Some of my favorite leaders too. I know it's easy to kind of talk about some of the people who have done the past, but even now we talk about DeRay McKinnison and Janetta Elsie. They both were in Ferguson. Leaders
Mm-hmm.
that really kind of brought to light what was happening and on the ground. Like I remember being on Twitter during that time where you see the news telling one story, and then we literally had DeRay showing us what was really happening,
Mm-hmm.
and like beginning to realize that if we knew, but it took the veil off that
Absolutely.
it's not telling the story
Mm-hmm.
correctly, and how do we crowdsource news and media. It really shifted
Mm-hmm.
since 2014, and but I really appreciate both of them kind of being on the forefront about their sexuality and their identity as Black queer people, and like you have to deal with all of this at once. And I think Black people need to do that in general, but I also feel we need to create more space for everybody to say this is a totality of who I am.
Yeah, absolutely. Can we get into that thing you wrote down though about being in a space where you can be your full self?
Yeah, yeah,
I would love to hear what people that are listening. Oh, peace, Shannon. We got a few people in here. I would
yeah.
hear like what they think the answer to the question
I
is.
love that. I love that. So the question is, where do you get to be your full selves? What spaces do you feel free? Um, and how can we stop downplaying our identity for survival?
And before y'all answer that question, just want to give you a little bit of background about that. We were talking about intersectionality the other day, about how I'm queer and Black and a woman, and I never know, like in nut ass situations and discrimination situations, I never know which one of those things is setting somebody off, right?
Mm,
Intersectionality, like there's all these different identities that coalesce and exist in me. Mr. Miller's on here. What's up?
hey, what up, B?
Yeah. Yeah, so that's what kind of prompted this question. Like I can go home, I can go home and visit my church, my Black ass church, and I am the gay girl at the church.
Mm,
You know what I mean? I can
man,
do some HBCU function, you know what I mean? I'm the gay girl there. But in other spaces, oh, I'm the Black girl.
yeah.
Um, and so, like, where can you all be where all of your intersections are respected and accepted, and you feel comfortable being your authentic self?
So this question is for the audience. Let us know, type it in, and we'll read it, because I feel like that's important. And I think for me, like so much of it has come in reading more narratives other than like what's spoon fed to us.
Mm-hmm.
So even around the Black church, and finding other women who are doing like this dismantling work around oppressive theology. With close friends and family. What up, Conrad?
Peace, Conrad. Close friends, family. Okay, that's good, and that's privilege too, because a lot of queer people, you know what I mean. Like family isn't always a safe place.
I couldn't imagine. And I think that's kind of the question I have when I talk to my friends and family back home, especially in Texas and the Bible Belt, and it's definitely more challenging. But it's kind of like, would your love change for me if I love differently? Like the one aspect, everything about me is the same, but I love differently. I love the woman. I love the trans man. I love someone else, like more than what you expect. But then how you view me will be completely different. How you love me, how you accept me will be completely different. And I think that's crazy to think one shift can like unravel like all this love and acceptance that I felt my entire life.
Look, I'm gonna tell you a story about that. Simone says, "Alone and with close friends."
Alone.
Alone is real. That's real. That's absolutely real. I remember when I came out to my mom, her initial I was at Howard, matter of fact. Her initial reaction was, um, pedal pun pedals. You have to first feel safe in your mind, energy, and body before you can walk safely in a dangerous world. I personally feel safe with people who truly see me. All right. He says that's somebody checking in from London.
That's what's up.
When I came out to my mom, I remember her initial reaction was like, "Oh, you're my baby and I love you." And then she called me right back. She was like, "Who are you hanging out with out there? Are you in church? Are you like how are you being who's influencing you?" Basically, like all of a sudden she thought that because I was saying I'm gay, it meant that morally somewhere I'm a changed person.
Right.
Like I wasn't still the same person that she raised.
Mm.
You know what I mean?
Yeah.
It was so interesting. Like it was devastating, but I just
Right.
so interesting that me being honest about who I am prompted a response that made her question my character.
Mm. Your morality.
We got more responses in the chat. Honestly, I personally don't care. That's a personal journey. I suppose I'm the least comfortable with my immediate family. Everywhere else, I'm cool as long as they're not a threat to my blackness. Mm.
But I think that's really important though. I feel like emotional safety is so important to our mental health. Um, I think when we go into workspaces, then we have to leave our blackness behind. I
Mm-hmm.
feel like when we go, definitely out and, you kicking it with friends in the front of the yard and it's too many of y'all, then you're a threat. The music's too loud, it's a threat. So all these things that begin to affect your psyche and how you interact with the world and how you interact with yourself, like what's that self-talk as well. I think
Mm-hmm.
it's really important. And I think for me, this self-emancipation work has been coming like over the last few years, but I'm still not like and so I feel that like alone, you know what I'm saying? But I really feel like we need community as well.
Mm-hmm.
So how about you? Like, how did you begin to like cope during that time, how when you told and like and find the support that you needed?
I was just being a whore. I was just out there.
I didn't say it. That's what I'm
um,
saying. I didn't say
I,
it.
yeah, I don't know. I think that my parents, my family, because I was kind of raised, it was everybody, it was grandparents, aunties. Um, my family did a good job of like giving me a healthy amount of self-esteem, like self-confidence anyway.
Yeah.
So I feel like they prepared me for a harsh ass world regardless, just because they gave birth to a black girl. You know what I mean?
Yeah, yeah.
And that was kind of the sentiment that influenced my mom's reaction too, because it's almost like we gave you all of these things, like we put you in the best schools that we could afford and all of these extracurriculars, and you know what I mean, trying to do the best we could for you to navigate this crazy ass world, and then you throw this shit on it. Like your life is already going to be hard, basically. You know what I mean? And now you want to add the gay thing, and you want to dress like a dude. Like, what the fuck are you doing? That was the energy.
But did they feel like it came out the blue for you? Because I mean, I don't
I
know.
mean, probably not. I come from a close knit family. Like they see me, they saw me every day of my life. They had to have known, suspected, all of that. It's just that we're black, and there is a culture of silence,
A culture of silence.
and everything
And
was cool until I said, "Hey, I'm gay."
because then you have to confront it.
Mm-hmm.
But it's your confrontation too, right? I mean, it's like you saying that this is who I'm going to be in this space as well. You're talking
Look
about
at
Brandon.
look at you
I'm
already
sorry.
know. Look at B Miller. Not a horse sexually sampling. That's it. I
That's
respect
it.
that. I like that. I like.
But so you said the silence is violence, and I think that's such a key point. I really want you to talk about that and like the effects of not speaking up and not advocating um, in our spaces.
For sure. So when when you remain quiet when someone else is being like completely debased, dehumanized, insulted for who they you're making it, you're normalizing a certain type of behavior, right? And so when that type of behavior is normalized, and it can be simple, like we can talk about teasing somebody for being fat or
Mm-hmm.
dark skinned, like whatever the case may be, like you sit and you like laugh, play along, acquiesce, you're normalizing something that can be, it just always turns into something more dangerous. You know,
Yeah.
because all of these people heard you um, laugh at me because I'm dark skinned and nobody said anything. They all kind of went along with it.
Mm.
Some dumbass in that space is going to be like, oh, that person is dark skinned. They've assigned less value to that person. I can get away with XYZ. Maybe now I'm a target for a sexual assault. Maybe I'm just not as valued as I would have been if I were, you know what I'm saying? Like
Right.
a reflection or something like that. Just an example, y'all. But I'm just saying, like, when I say silence is violence, that's exactly what I mean. If you're not speaking up to kind of snap someone out of it, like, hey, that's not okay.
Right.
That's not cool. And then maybe even following up with a bit of education as to why that's not cool.
Mm.
Um, you might change somebody's mind. And I think I think Black people, like we're I'm not gonna say we're in the middle of a genocide because I feel like we've been in a genocide for a very long time.
Right.
I think a lot of that has to do with the fact that white Americans are silent.
Oof.
And it's kind of relegated us to this underclass where it's understood that we don't deserve and won't receive the same rights as our white counterparts. And it's violent. Our schools are trash, that's violence. Our neighborhoods are trash, that's violence. We're getting murdered by police and angry white mobs, that's violence. You know what I mean?
Health, nutrition, all
Yeah.
that intentional violence.
Yeah.
Um, and it kind of brought me to, I think that was kind of some of the sentiments around the Holocaust as well, right? Like people were just kind of not really addressing it head on, and nobody
Mm-hmm.
felt any responsibility.
Mm-hmm.
Yeah,
And,
I think. Go ahead.
and I don't want to defend white people. I'm not white, so I can't necessarily speak to their psyche, but I think about this a lot. Like, if you were a white person growing up in slavery, during the time of slavery, and you saw like your family own Black people, and maybe your big brother had a Black sex slave, and you saw somebody run away, and then the next day his head was on a pike that people saw coming into the town, so they would know we don't play with niggers around here.
Right.
Like think about how much you would have to ignore and how silent you would have to be to even stay sane.
Yeah.
You know what I mean? So
Yeah.
like, I'm not saying that dismantling a culture of silence is easy and people just need to do XYZ. I'm saying like that shit is tough. People really got killed for being like what they could nigger lovers, and you
Right.
know what I mean? Even white abolitionists on the Underground Railroad had to be low key. They
Yeah.
could be,
And got killed too.
yes, that's what I'm saying. So it's not easy work, but if we're dismantling anything that's killing people, then we have to sit with discomfort. Like we all gonna be uncomfortable for a while.
And I really feel like that's the case. And I feel like when I think about justifying humanity, why it needs to be justified, like what power do people who are oppressing people get from not allowing someone else to be free? Like, what are the power dynamics at play? Like, who benefits from that? And I don't know the answer, like, like, but I think about too, the silence violence is as how we begin to make not only personal decisions but local decisions. How do we vote on healthcare? How do we vote on choices like health choices for ourselves? And all these things affect like this world that we create.
Mm-hmm.
And so I feel like if we're not having these conversations, we'll take these the socialization that we've had since birth, right? That hasn't been challenged, that hasn't been questioned, that hasn't been interrogated, and take that to the polls. We'll take it, continue to take it to our families and our churches, and we continue to reinforce bad ideologies at the expense of everybody else that's not us or not voting
Mm-hmm.
at their state. Like we have this all white, white male, mostly white male Congress making decisions for this country that is so, multifaceted,
Mm-hmm.
and it benefits only them. And so what power do they lose if it's an even playing field, if everyone gets to bring their full selves, if we get to have the dynamic of everyone not being under the weight of oppression? And that's what I feel like. Oppression is so weighty. We spend so much time trying to just live and survive that we don't get to actualize our full talents and our full being, our full space, even for ourselves.
Yeah, I think what you're talking about is much bigger than it's bigger than this. That's capitalism, right? You're describing a capitalist system that's messing everything up. That, in addition to white supremacy and patriarchy, all of those things are working together to kind of.
It's still fireworks season here.
Yeah.
I agree.
But
Go ahead.
what were you about to say just now?
I was about to read the next thing off the.
What's the next thing? I don't have my thing pulled up.
The thing is the problem with exceptionism. I kind of think we kind of talked about that. But what does it feel like to create a new future in Afrofuturism, where we can create this new utopia, this Black queer utopia, where Black queer people are free to be their full selves? And what does that look like? I think that's a question too for the audience too. What would a Black queer utopia look like?
Honestly, I think a Black queer utopia isn't just Black and queer.
Right.
A Black queer utopia would be a Black utopia.
I agree.
Which brings me to this point that I meant to say, but I forgot. But like, we know how annoying and draining and frustrating it is to even have to say Black Lives Matter. Like, people are killing us, and we have to do the most to get anyone held responsible. And when they do those interviews, you ever saw those police interviews? They're like, no, I'm not regretful, I'm not remorseful, I did my job. They don't apologize, none of that shit.
Yeah.
We literally have to say, like we're roaches, like they're just stomping. Literally have to say Black Lives Matter. That's such a blower to have to say that. So we know. I don't understand Black people that are frustrated by people saying Black trans lives matter. You already know where that's coming from, because Black trans people are also being slaughtered, and in some cases cut into tiny pieces. You know what I mean?
Yeah.
And like when those things happen, like, we don't see the rest of the Black community rally behind that for the most part. So yes, people are screaming Black trans lives matters because they're being completely ignored.
Yeah.
So I said that to say a Black utopia to me would look like all my Black queer family, my non-queer Black family, like, all together, like kicking it, like and it's not weird. Nobody's gonna say anything crazy, and we're just accepting. And straight cisgender parents that have a gay or trans kid, their kid doesn't have to go cities away to live their best life. You know what I mean? Yeah.
So we had a couple comments. One said that utopia is a dangerous world. And someone agreed with her. That person, I don't know who it is. Sorry. Black utopia should be utopia for everyone, queer, nerds, introverts, all intersections. Okay. We need to identify what we need or would need to be in a loving and self-sufficient space. How create that safe space. And that's Michelle. What up, Michelle? You have brought up something that I think is important too when we talk about utopias or this ideal space that we can all be free in. I think it's really important to bring up is reparations, and like we need our money. Uh, pay,
My favorite topic.
pay us.
Were you about to say something?
I was reading the feedback. Black power and beauty is just not as Black people existing and building and healthy lives together. It's just us.
Healthy keyword.
Healthy. I don't know. Have you ever been healthy? I don't even know what Black healthy is. I feel like we cope sometimes better than other times.
When have Black people had the opportunity to be healthy?
That's a luxury.
I don't think anybody's healthy. I don't think rich white people are healthy. I think the society living is super sick, and we got some people that are sicker than others.
That's true. That's so true. That's so true. So what else would need to exist for so we got silence is violence, we done that. We want to bring our full humanity. I want reparations.
Me too.
I feel like if I had my reparations, if y'all had reparations, what's the first thing y'all do, man? I don't know. It'd be a Black party first and foremost. Like just one of the questions we get for like for nonprofits, your nonprofit space, what would have to happen for your nonprofit not to exist, and what's your mission, your vision statement for, and I was like, man, if we didn't have to deal with oppression, starting with today, it'd be a party, Black cookout, game night, date night organization. We'll still exist, but we didn't have to deal with this bullshit. Like, we'll be doing like, some really fun stuff. Like,
if you
what? Know what it means.
What's up, Sam? Jaquay said, I feel like if they gave us reparations, they'd place more value on money, so we'd be back at square one. If you actually got it, would you stay in the U.S.?
Ooh. People have been talking about exiting for a while, and I think I've seen a lot of posts about where you would go. I think Costa Rica has been like listed over and over again that I've seen. So I'm not sure.
I'm staying here. This is my. I got family fought and died on all of these wars. You know what I mean?
Yeah. And we built this country. It's ours.
Not moving. And also, like, Black Americans are like the only people on the planet that don't have a country, like a fatherland or a motherland. You know what I mean? Like, yes, we know we came from the continent of Africa, but we don't know anything beyond that. And It's not like any of those countries ever granted us like an official right of return.
Only Ghana recently.
Yeah, that's what I'm saying. Like the Jews have Israel and all of that. Like, if we had a country backing us up, we wouldn't be so fucked up right now. Like any group of people in the United States, when the United States government does something ridiculous, their home government backs them up and says, this is not acceptable. You don't hurt people like this. And then things happen, and sometimes reparations are issued. You know what I mean? We don't have that. I'm not going in here. Anti-Blackness is global. Yeah, absolutely. I didn't mean to get so hyped about that, but I'm not going anywhere. Maybe other people feel differently. Let me speak a little bit about reparations and why they're so necessary. I wish that we didn't have to say Black Lives Matter, and I wish that my trans family didn't have to say Black Trans Lives Matter. And I wish that respect was distributed equally amongst Black people, and that we could be fighting white supremacy right now and demanding. I wish that we were on one accord, so much so that that's what we were fighting for right now. So I got some numbers for y'all. There is 190 million white Americans and 40 million Black Americans. And the average white American household is worth 10 times what the average Black American household is worth. And we're about to experience the biggest wealth transfer that the United States has ever seen, because all of these baby boomers, I mean, unfortunately, a lot of our parents and grandparents are passing. And the baby boomers, especially Black baby boomers, when we look at Black wealth, it's held there. So unless you are tied to a baby boomer, it's likely that you won't inherit anything in this multi-trillion-dollar wealth transfer that's in place. We're already behind. We're about to be set even further behind unless you are one of those people that is luckily tied to a baby boomer, a mom and dad, a grandma, grandpa, auntie, uncle, whatever. So check this out. And y'all can look this up. You can Google racial wealth gap Tone Talks. He's like an attorney in California, but he talks about this a lot. Those white families, those 190 million white families, they own 90% of the national wealth. Those 40 million Black families own 2.6% of the national wealth. 10% of white households, which is approximately 8 million people, are worth 1.4 million or more. So 10% of all the white households in America are worth $1.4 million or more. About 50% of Black households, which is 7 million, about 7 million households, not people, are worth $1,700.
Wow.
You subtract the car. So we're fucked. And I really, really wish that more people took the fight for reparations seriously.
You know, I think that's, you know, we talk about like uniting, right? And I just want to be mindful of time too. If y'all have questions, leave them so we can answer them before our hour is up. But I think if we can talk about these unifying things, but it's so hard because people are still dying. So it's like, it's, you know, oppression is just like, it's so deep seated. But yeah, I think there is some rallying that we can do while this time is shifting. It feels like we're in a shifting era, right? Like it's going to be different on the other side of this, and what that looks like. I think Black people need to stop asking for the bare minimum. Yes, Black Lives Matter, but Black Lives Matters and Black economics matters, and you know, all this Black power and Black self-actualization, and what those things look like. I think we have to really demand more from this country, from our white counterparts, from ourselves, you know, and to really say, yo, we want it all, like, and we deserve it all.
Absolutely.
And we got this proof to show you, like, 400 years of labor to show for it. And this you know, this wealth you're talking about, this 1.4 million or whatever, they're on the backs of Black people.
Yeah, that's my money.
It's literally our labor, our intellectual property, our genius, our survival. All of that has literally built the wealth. So yeah, I really want it all back.
Yeah, and I agree with you 400%. Like, we need to aim high. We need to make big demands, and reparations needs to be that. And that's like a proper negotiation tactic. You don't say, first of all, it's not Black people saying change the Aunt Jemima face on the syrup, because none of us give a fuck. Okay, but we need to somehow come together and make that demand big. Reparation. Jaquoia said, if and when we're issued reparations, the government's just gonna leave us alone. Like, we'll go back to square one. But not if our reparations package is something that spans generations. We need a financial infusion that spans generations. We need social programs. We need legislation. We need a whole bunch of stuff. Reparations is not going to be just this check.
Right. And land and equity, all that.
Hello? Yeah. It should be a huge package. Not one. Yo, everybody's talking about the Aunt Jemima joint. Not one. But yeah, I know we don't have a lot of time, Shar. When you give me the word, and I'll share some of the resources.
Yeah, just only because Instagram shuts down after an hour because, that's how they do. Unless you're rich and you can pay for the package. Can this country give us what we need and deserve? I mean, I think what we've seen other countries do, and I think we're just kind of getting to that point at the beginning of it, maybe, is to not politely ask power to give us what we want, but we have to demand it. And what that looks like is, that's some history that you can read. What that looks like.
Can't say everything on the internet, but yeah.
Got some resources, some I can share.
Yeah, reparations be land, checks, education, legislation, tax exemptions. Absolutely. I wonder now why we're paying taxes for anything.
And student loans. Them shit should, that's an easy clear that. That's clear it. Just clear it.
Right. And yeah. So please, y'all, if y'all don't take anything from this conversation, please look into reparations. Please look into reparations. Please start to advocate. Please start to have those conversations with your friends. When you hear Black people saying they're getting money, that's because we are so broke. We are so far removed from wealth that we think getting the cash that we're getting, like income is not wealth. We think that's something. We are screwed, y'all. That's not wealth. But anyway, I got some resources for y'all. I'm gonna read them quickly so that. Okay.
And you're gonna share them with me, and then I'll post them as well.
Okay, cool. The Color of Law. Read that book, please. It's by Richard Rothstein. The Color of Law kind of details how the United States government has been complicit in the fact that in the just subjugation of Black American people in general. Like it details laws and policies from slavery to post-slavery, Jim Crow, segregation, redlining, you name it. Prison system. Okay.
Bobby.
Peace. By the time you read that book, you're going to be like, oh yeah, we need reparations like 100 years ago. Zora Thomas. Zora Thomas is an incredible Black trans woman. I am biased because I work with her, but she's an incredible author and she just released a book. It's called The Collection of Colors and Etc. And it's available on Amazon. So if you want to get some perspective, you want to support a Black trans woman, that's a perfect opportunity to do so. George Johnson is a Black non-binary individual that's a writer and activist. And they just released a book called All Boys Aren't Blue, which kind of details growing up as someone that was assigned male at birth and Black. And just what that experience looks like. And that book is doing well. Like George is in conversations to turn that into a film potentially. So like people are paying attention to it. And then Zora Thomas is the founder of Sisters PGH. She's a Black trans woman in Pittsburgh, Pennsylvania. And she runs this organization that helps other Black trans women like with housing and employment and stuff like that. Something that's the most profound to me is that she started People's Pride.
Okay.
So she started a pride that is super lit and there are no corporate sponsors involved.
Wow. That's dope.
Yeah, that's all I got for y'all.
That's really good. And what you said, like the housing, it kind of took me to the show that I enjoyed. I think kind of really gave me a lens into Black trans lives pose. Which is just, it's a beautiful show in and of itself, but just like that behind the scenes where you get to see how they navigate life and all these hurdles. And I don't want to be a hurdle. I think for me, it's kind of like, what do I need to do to make sure I'm not a hurdle? You know what I'm saying? Mm-hmm. And I think hopefully that's the conversation that we begin to have more so for our Black queer community.
Samantha said, I'm paying property taxes in 2020 while the city hasn't provided any services in Black neighborhoods all quarantine. Talk about it, Sam.
Yeah, that's real.
My cousin Corey in here too. Yeah. I have fun, sure.
This is great, though. I appreciate you so much. Any final thoughts? Any final instructions? Any final rally calls?
No, I just wanted to say like thank you for having me, and let me know how I can support your organization moving forward. You know
Yeah.
what I mean? Shout out to everybody on here too. Wow, we got people from Howard like from 35 years ago.
First of all, it was 35 years ago.
Yeah. Shout out to everybody that even came through and helped keep this chat moving. I appreciate it.
Yeah, same, definitely. And thank you. I appreciate your friendship. I've been watching you grow and, rooting for you. And I think about different spaces where you have allowed me in, and I appreciate that as well. And yeah, I'm rooting for you. I love you,
I love
and
you too, sis.
yeah, I appreciate you.
I hope all y'all take care of yourselves.
Take care of yourselves. Take care of yourselves. Do what we can to take care of each other. Because it's literally just us for ourselves.
Correct. And speak up when you hear somebody say some crazy shit about trans people.
That's real. Speak up.
All right.
I love it. All right, y'all have a good one. Stay safe, and we'll catch y'all next time.
Peace, peace, peace.
Peace.